Okay. So can I ask a quick synopsis of what you think the prescription is for society today for men? In a short version, what do you think they should do to be successful with women?
I think guys have to have certain things in place, right, before they want to get into a long-term relationship. It's 5 things. So I would say,
Well, you told me to go sleep with a bunch of women and date multiple women at the same time, which I did, and it significantly damaged my life.
yeah, so would it be fair to say that when you went through that experience, you were able to
Myron over at Fresh and Fit gets pressed by a Christian college student on why Myron's way of how men should be operating in society is damaging people, damaging men specifically, and leading them down a dark and dangerous path. So with that being said, let's see how this conversation unfolded.
Okay. So can I ask a quick synopsis of what you think the prescription is for society today for men? In a short version, what do you think they should do to be successful with women?
to be successful with women?
Yeah.
Okay, are we talking about like getting a girl for a long-term relationship, just to get laid? What are we talking about?
Well, I think the only reason should be for a long-term relationship and marriage. I mean, that's Jesus Christ founded it, but I'm just curious what your prescription is.
All right, now before we get into Myron's prescription on what his view is when it comes to this, we need to understand that Myron is the red pill community guy. He believes that men need to be extremely fit, making a ton of money, and should be having sex with as many females as humanly possible. This is just treating men and saying men need to just go to their primal instincts, be an animal, basically. And that's what you need to do. We're going to see just how gross this is and how much this falls on its face.
Well, I've talked about this. I think guys have to have certain things in place, right, before they want to get into a long-term relationship. It's 5 things. So I would say 100K per year, 6 figures a year, 6 months to 1 year of savings, be in good shape, have at least 50 partners, right, sexual body count.
All right, and then is that the last one?
And then there's one more, but that's fine. You could go ahead and engage with what I've said so far.
So
All right, so we do need to address what he just said here, and you did hear correctly. I had to rewind it a few times, but Myron is saying that you as a male need to have slept with 50 different women. 50. Not only do you need to sleep with 50 different women, but you need to make sure that you're making 6 figures a year. You need to make sure that you have 6+ months of savings. You need to make sure that you're in shape. Now, there's 2 on this list that I agree with. Hey, there's nothing wrong with having some financial stability before you get married. There's nothing wrong with, hey, being physically in shape. We should all be taking care of our bodies physically. But that's not the things that we need to follow in order to check the boxes off before we get married. When I met my wife, man, I was not making anything. I was making $20,000 a year, and we were engaged, we were married. My wife was with me when we had nothing, but we had everything we needed. And guys, this idea of you need to sleep with 50 different women, this is gross. This is dangerous. No, you do not. There's this weird way of thinking that we need to test drive cars before we buy them. We need to test drive women. We need to sleep with people before we actually commit to marriage with them. No, we do not. That is not what sex is for. Sex is meant for a husband and a wife. That is what it's for. Not for us to go sleep around with as many women as possible and act like we're just a lion having sex with all these lionesses. Stop this nonsense. But I'm going to give you a personal story on this in just a few seconds here, but let's let this continue to flesh out.
With what I've said so far.
So the reason I asked that is I've watched almost every single podcast you ever did for about 1.5 years. So much so that I bought into a lot of the things that you said. And for about 2 years, it led me astray and significantly damaged my personal life, including relationships.
How did it lead you astray?
Well, you told me to go sleep with a bunch of women and date multiple women at the same time, which I did, and it significantly damaged my life. And it wasn't until I actually turned around and started listening to Jesus Christ that I was saved. Now I'm happily married. I have 1 child now with another one on the way, and I've never felt happier. But I felt.
Congratulations. That's good. That's really good.
Thank you. And I know you're not against that, but my concern is what you're saying to men leads them astray because I'm a walking example of it. And I think you're significantly damaging people, and especially you're leading people away from morality. Women are not sex objects. Women are created in the image of God, and they are valuable. And they should be treated as such. Why should God give you one of his children if you don't even know how to treat him? So I think.
Now, this guy is giving his personal testimony on, I listened to you, Myron. I did what you said, and it didn't end well for me. Now, he's married, he has a kid and a kid on the way, and that's beautiful, but it damaged him. Guys, I lost my virginity at 14 years old, and I had sex with countless females. I viewed them as sex objects. I viewed them as, how can they give me pleasure? I was going around sleeping with as many females as possible. That is not healthy. That is not okay. Guys, that is damaging. I wish I never did any of that. I'm thankful for God's grace and his mercy and his kindness and his forgiveness. But man, I wish those would be burned from my memory. I hate that. And we should not be pursuing it. Short term, is it fun? Is it enjoyable? Well, any sin is fun and enjoyable short term. But long term, it's going to really wreck you. And it did for me. Now, thankfully, I'm married and we have our boy here and we have a little girl that we just had and we have 2 boys in heaven. But man, the Lord has done a work in me. But that is something that we should avoid. And it's something that I wish I would have, but I didn't. I fell headfirst into sex. I fell headfirst into lust. And it damaged me.
So a question for you. You said you got out there dating and meeting women and stuff like that. And then you said that it kind of hurt you.
Yeah.
How did it hurt you specifically? Did you like just start? What happened specifically?
Well, I started warring against my own flesh. It's like trying to fill an empty void. Mm-hmm. There's a God-shaped vacuum in the heart of every man that can only be filled by God alone. Anything else you try to fill with that's not going to satisfy it. Sure. And I tried to do it with sex.
Yeah. So would it be fair? How'd you meet your wife?
We actually had the #1 dating podcast in North and South Carolina called Who Hurt You Podcast. Okay. And I'm also friends with Fresh. I know him very well. I texted him before I came here. Yep. And I know pretty much everyone on your crew. But I was a heavy follower, and you actually inspired me to start the podcast, and I realized what I was doing was wrong.
And we're about to see here Myron try and twist this and turn it around and say, no, I did help you. I actually didn't lead you astray. But in fact, guys, Myron did lead this gentleman down the wrong path. Now, this gentleman did have to make his own choices, but he was influenced by Myron and what he was saying and bought into the lies and the deception.
Yeah, so would it be fair to say that when you went through that experience, you were able to identify characteristics that you probably found as unredeemable and you probably wouldn't want to commit to, right?
In what way?
Well, when you were seeing these women, right, you probably started seeing patterns in how they behave, how they speak or whatever. Maybe they're not qualified to be a wife. Because the thing is, right?
Well, I don't need that. I have the Bible for that. It tells me what to look for.
Yeah, but the thing is that you were able, and again, you're probably not going to notice it, but when you dated and dealt with all these women, you probably were able to identify characteristics that you were not fond of or characteristics that would make a woman not a good candidate for a long-term relationship. And I think half the game is figuring out which girls don't qualify for marriage versus which ones that do. And clearly you learned a skill set on how to become attractive and get women, and then you're able to identify the things that you like versus the things that you don't like. And that only comes a lot of times with experience. Now, look, if a guy can go ahead and, find a woman as a virgin and be attractive and be able to understand how to navigate that, that's great in modern times. But the reality is a lot of guys don't. And I mean, even in your success story, you had to go through a lot of bad women to be able to identify your current wife as the one. So failures are good. They're good.
This is such a terrible argument for Myron. Guys, you don't need to have sex with all these women to sift through which one is wife material and which one isn't. Go on a date. Have a conversation. Talk about things. And you'll find out. Invest in the individual. Do not date just to date, but date and have the mindset of, I'm dating this person and thinking they can potentially be my spouse. Can they? That's the motivate. That's our mindset. That's what our motivation should be. Don't fall into the stupid trap of, oh, I need to test drive a car before buying it. I need to sleep with this female before I see if she's wife material. Because what if we get married and we've never had sex, and then we have sex and the sex is horrible and all blah, blah, blah. It is foolishness. Oh, I need to live with this person before I can even see if I can get married to them. It is such foolishness. No, just engage with the individual. Have conversations. Talk about things that are uncomfortable. Talk about deep things. Talk about religion. Talk about politics. Talk about things that people don't like to talk about. And just see and pray and ask the Lord for guidance and help and wisdom. That's what you should be doing. Don't listen to fools like Myron who think you should just go sleep with 50 different women before finding a wife. That is just utter foolishness. And coming from somebody, guys, again, who lost their virginity at 14, who slept with as many women as I possibly could, that I've lost count. Don't do it. Don't fall into the trap. This is a trap that the devil wants you to fall into, that the devil wants you to live in. This is the darkness that he wants to just overtake you with. But don't fall for it. It may seem enticing, but don't fall for it. Find yourself falling to the feet of Christ and surrendering your life to him